Alright, hello everyone! So today I want to rank every single Splatoon 3 special in terms of design. This means things like how fun they are to use, fight, effects on the game, etc. I did this before the game came out, but obviously without the game coming out, we didn't have as many details, and a few of the specials have even been changed. So I wanted to do a full ranking now that the game has been out and give my opinion on it. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe to see more, and let's get started. Let's start with the Splatoon 1 specials, and we have Trizooka. This is a less powerful version of the Splatoon 1 Inkzooka. It is very vulnerable at close range without the ability to use your sub-weapon and with your swim speed slowed down. However, you have 3 high-damaging, very powerful cross-the-map shots that are, of course, incredibly threatening. I would say this isn't near perfect because it's mostly just a powerful special that has its fair share of vulnerabilities. It's good at a few things, it's very exploitable, it feels very fair to fight. The main thing I would say would keep it from being absolutely perfect is the unreliability of the shots and the ability to kill you through spawn armor, which I don't really like as a mechanic. Next up is Killer Whale 5.1. Now originally I thought this would be ranked pretty high because the original Splatoon 1 Killer Whale is a great simple special that is very dependent on your positioning, aim, and timing. This special is basically just better designed missiles, so I guess it's okay. It's a global range auto-targeting special, two factors that aren't very great. There's not really much counterplay to it. What gives it points is what happens when you're actually locked onto by the whales. The way this special works is that it tracks your exact movement, and because of that, you have way more control over what happens when you are targeted, and it doesn't last as long as missiles or have as many other factors to it. Because of this, it's in a pretty good spot balance-wise, and it's not too annoying, but it still doesn't really have any traits of a good special. It just also isn't the worst thing to ever exist. Big Bubbler is a very tricky one. Having a dome with a lot of HP is something very tough for the game to balance, but I'd say they did a pretty good job of it. Big Bubble will immediately score points for teaching very good positioning habits because where you place the bubble helps depend on how much value you have, and obviously going further to place the bubble further puts you at higher risk, so it's a great risk reward that teaches you how to position correctly. I also think the beacon in the middle adds a good bit of depth to it, and I really like how you can interact with that. I think the opponents have a good bit of options between the vulnerability points and being able to go through and shoot you on the other side of the shield. I do have one big problem though, which is that this can be used on the objective in tower control, and the entire risk reward thing that I mentioned previously is out the window. Yes, the duration on tower is a little bit shorter than it is on the ground, but again, its whole thing is where you place it is how much value you get, and you have to move further forward to get more value. And if you could just put it on a tower that will move forward for you, then that kind of breaks. Outside of that though, there's no real major problems with it in my eyes. Tri-Strike is the best design displacement special I think we have ever gotten in the game. It is the definition of high power with high trade-offs, and especially now that it's gotten some buffs to its damage output and radius, this has shined through even more. You are extremely vulnerable, forced to throw 3 strikes with no sub-weapon or even swim form, but at the same time, you have strikes that can break objects, can displace players, and do high amounts of damage per second. It's really just that massive trade-off, and because you're vulnerable throwing the strikes, there's counterplay for enemies, where at the same time you get to have more powerful things to throw at people because of that trade-off, so it allows it to feel good to use and to fight. Wavebreaker is also practically amazing. It's a very interesting trade-off between either having to try to shoot the Wavebreaker and not being able to shoot other players, or being able to jump over the Wavebreaker and having your movement be hampered, or letting yourself get hit by the Wavebreaker and not having any effect on your movement. It's just a giant set of trade-offs, and because the special is based on where you throw it, which doesn't have a lot of range, it also promotes good positioning similar to Big Bubbler. I think it serves as a great small advantage in team fights that works very well, while at the same time not being overbearing and having plenty of options for enemies to deal with it. Moving on to Splatoon 2, we have Missiles. I still have my own video on this, and this is still mostly accurate, but the one thing that's changed since then is there is a 10-second delay before you can charge the next set of missiles starting from when you pop it. This delay is good, and it stops the spammability of it, but it is still a global range special that can locate and move the entire team for free. That doesn't have any counterplay to that. I mean, you can kind of choose where the missiles land, and there's that, but that's kind of the thing. You're already getting targeted from the missiles no matter what you do. It's just still a very problematic special that I believe once it gets on weapons that you can run double missiles will be something that really shows up and creates one of the worst metas in this game. I still really like Inkjet. Out of all the non-DLC Splatoon 2 specials, I'd say it's still the best one of them in terms of design. It's just a very nice trade-off between having that vantage point, having that extra maneuverability to access spots you couldn't normally, but at the same time being a very slow, vulnerable target with a recall that you can camp. Like with the others, it's a good amount of strengths and weaknesses, and I think in particular, the ability ability to have off angles on the map design of Splatoon 3 has become more important. But at the same time, I think the special lacks a little bit of depth that some of the higher ones do, and without ink armor, it struggled a little bit. Obviously, that can be said as a balance problem, but to me, I think it really needs a little bit more help and a little bit more depth to give inkjet players more to do so it can feel more satisfying to use, and that would be a design problem to me. Inkstorm is a thing in the game. I've kind of been between okay and good for Storm. It doesn't really do anything wrong, but at the same time, it's not anything special, but I've kind of settled into good. I'd say the way the special functions in this game is a little bit better than I thought. It's still just a really basic special that doesn't have a lot to it. You can't really take advantage of the smoke screen effect from having rain on top of someone as much as you could in Splatoon 2. However, it is one of the healthier displacement specials in the game because it's a very weak displacement, even if it lasts for a long time. The paint it has is nice for you to capitalize on, but is easy for enemies to overtake. It is a very Splatoon 2 special design-esque in terms of requiring coordination, but I don't think it's too bad in that aspect, and it can still be used selfishly in a solo queue environment. It doesn't really do anything wrong here, but it doesn't really do anything exceptional either. So I'd say it's in good because it works well with the game right now, but I could see it being lower. Finally is the DLC specials for Splatoon 2. The Booyah Bomb is pretty great. I mean, it is a very satisfying special to use. You get to charge up a bomb and throw it at enemies. That provides a small amount of displacement, and it gives you a bit of HP, and it just flat out looks fantastic. I would say the main flaw of this special is its stalling capabilities. Being able to hold a Booyah Bomb for a long period of time to throw it at someone can just stall choke points for way too long, and I think that's the main issue with the special right now. I'd say if the stalling factors like duration and range were toned back, it could definitely move up a bit higher, but in its current state, I think it's just great. It has a few problems that would keep it from being higher. Ultra Stamp is still perfect. Now this special sucks balance-wise right now. However, design, it's just way too cool. It's a special that has a perfect amount of counterplay, being vulnerable in the sides and back, and for whatever reason in the front right now, but hopefully they get rid of that part. The throw mode is just one of the most satisfying things to hit in the entire game, and the velocity and speed of the special is such that the enemies can easily react to it and deal with it. It is a very fair and balanced special, and the ability to shred objects that it has is more useful in this game. If the special were better balance-wise, I feel like it'd be really good for the meta, so it's unfortunate that it's stuck here. The weird splashdown baller hybrid that is Reef Slider, to me, I mean, it's okay. This is a pretty low ranking because I originally liked the idea of Reef Slider. I think a simpler, aggressive special is really cool. Like, not everyone has to learn something like Inkjet or Ultra Stamp or Trizooka or Zipcaster. Those have a lot to it. Being able to just press a button and go in is pretty nice as an option. My issues is more that I think the special ends up being a little bit too linear. You can explode it earlier, which is some nice depth, but that's kind of about it. On top of that, rather than reducing the end lag or finding unique ways to have interactions after the fact, they've given up and basically just given the special invincibility, which, while it's made it slightly better, isn't really the best way to fix that problem. It doesn't really help as much balance-wise as you might expect, and it adds a bit more jank to fighting the special that really didn't need to be there. I wish the devs went a different route because adding a bit more depth as to what you can do after you explode would have been a great way to fix both the balance and design issues with the special. But instead, we have gradually improved the balance a little bit and sacrificed some of the design. And yeah, I just don't think it's that worth it. Tacticooler has been a very interesting one. Being the ink armor replacement, it was pretty much a low bar to be able to be better than it. And I think it's actually substantially better. I do like Tacticooler quite a bit, and I would put it in great. I would say this is the hardest special to rate because at one point it's a special that forces people to clump up, has limited range, and gives perks that make the game way more fun to play. But at the same time, the effects of these buffs and how they might affect the game in the future if the special becomes better balance-wise is something I'm a bit less sure about. Tacticooler doesn't help you get in on maps like these, it just brute forces the QR strat, and at the same time, Special Saber being 100% is incredibly scary, especially now that Respawn Punisher no longer works against it. I also dislike that the special isn't breakable. It takes away a cool layer of depth and counterplay that a lot of similar specials like Wavebreaker have. I would say it has potential to be both higher or lower, and is exceptionally fun to use right now, but time will have to tell where we can see it in a situation where it's more common to know if it will really be as healthy for the game as we think. Regardless, if Tacticooler is good, I think it would be a positive, but I think think it might have some negative effects to how the game is played that would keep it from going higher. Ink Vacuum is the perfect support special design. It is literally a support special that teaches you to protect your teammates with a selfish playmaking reward. Not much more you could ask for. On the enemy side, the vacuum is vulnerable from the sides and back, as well as some options such as Roller's Rolling, Splatoon's Charge Slashes, or Zipcaster being able to go through it, as well as obviously the ability to fill the ink vacuum and punish them since they cannot use squid form until they release the shot. Everything about this special is incredibly well thought out, and I like it. The only thing I could nitpick is that I wish the damage scaled with the amount of ink that was absorbed, but that's not enough to move it down. Yeah, Spider-Man is really cool. I mean, a grappling hook is typically almost always fun in a video game, so this isn't too surprising. Zipcaster has a good amount of vulnerability between the only little bit of armor when you're zipping and lack of it otherwise, the recall, and the fact that you are losing your sub-weapon to be able to use the zip arm. At the same time, the mechanics of being able to damage and move with Zipcaster are very fluid, the special feels amazing to use, and the playmaking power is awesome for it. The special is also perfect for these maps with how cramped and difficult they are to move on, giving you options to deal with that, which is especially helpful for this game. A great special. And finally, we have the Crab Tank. I ranked this one in perfect last time. And so, did I make a mistake? Yeah, a little bit. I would say the main thing keeping it from being perfect is the amount of range it has and the lack of reward for breaking the crab. These have become the two factors I dislike with the special. The range allows it to be used in very safe locations, which means it's spammed at a bit more annoying spots that takes away the ability to fight it, which is what makes it a really well-designed special in the first place. On top of that, breaking the special in some situations can punish the player who broke it, since the crab user basically has no end lag and can now just shoot or throw burst bombs or do whatever in order to kill you. I think the main problem with the special right now is being overtuned balance-wise, and I hope that the next nerfs we get to the special can fix both the design and the balance of it, allowing it to be easier to counterplay and less overpowered. So, how would I give the ranking as a whole? Well, Splatoon 2 would probably be a 4 at this point for me, and Splatoon 1 a 4.5. We didn't know how bad we had it until this game came out. As for Splatoon 3, while I originally gave it a 9, almost a 9.5 on pre-launch, I think with the game coming out, I'd give it an 8.5. It's still definitely a huge step up from the previous series, but there are a few problems here that I think could be addressed, and within the time we get balance patches, I think it's more than possible that things go higher. The main thing holding the specials back is Tenna missiles, and if that was removed, I would definitely give it a 9. As it is though, there are a few things that I'd like to see adjusted, being global range, reworking Reef Slider's invincibility, and showing a bit of caution towards HP specials and Tacticooler as they become more or less popular and we deal with balancing those. Considering Tri-Strike was buffed to be better at dealing with HP specials though, I do think we'll see adjustments on some of these things that could improve it in the future, but we'll have to see. Let me know if you agree with my list, and I'll see you all next time.